I wouldn't run away, but I wouldn't be much of a help. I wouldn't pee myself, but there'd be some projectile vomiting.
Yeah, we'll do it on Kurt then.
Yeah,
Distract
exactly.
him.
It's like
Distract him and run away.
I'm like a Dilophosaurus from Jurassic Park, the one that spits.
Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required.
We're the podcast that recaps all the episodes of The Big Bang Theory. No spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot.
Make yourself a grasshopper
and enjoy the ride. Hello there, Ryan.
Hello, Rob.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great because we just watched the Financial Permeability.
Oh, yeah.
For any new listeners out there, I'm Rob, and this is my co-host, Ryan. We are Theoretical Nonsense, the podcast that recaps, reviews, and deep dives facts from the Big Bang Theory, which we call IQ points. I've seen this series multiple times, but this is Ryan's first time watching, so we do our best to keep it no spoilers. Ryan has also been told he's been very similar to being a Sheldon, so we keep a tally point of how close Ryan is to being Sheldon. Where are we at?
We are at 55 points, me being not like Sheldon, and 54 points, me being like Sheldon. This is pretty neck and neck. I know last episode we jumped ahead. Sheldon got quite a few points that episode. But yeah.
All right, neck and neck.
Neck and neck.
So before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping. Follow the link in our show notes to get all of our social media. There's a link in there to a history of all of our IQ points from previous episodes. And you'll also find our Instagram account and our YouTube and our email address. So email us and we'll read your email out loud. It's at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. And if you give us a 5-star review, we'll give you a shout out. And speaking of 5-star reviews, Ryan and I have been discussing a giveaway. So if you give us a 5-star review on Apple, you will be automatically entered into a drawing for a $100 Amazon gift card. Why Amazon? Because everybody loves Amazon.
We all hate it, but we use hate it nonetheless. We love to hate it
and love it at the same time. So right now it's a little complicated, but on Apple reviews, you can only give your screen name and not give us any sort of contact information. So if you want to be entered into the drawing and you've already written a 5-star review, shoot us an email. Like I said, our email is in our follow the link in the show notes and you'll find our email. It's theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. Just shoot us the screen name and I guess we'll have your contact information if you email us. But we'll enter you into a drawing. So for any,
we're gonna need your social security, your grandmother's
your address,
name.
All that good stuff. We need it.
Please don't send us that. Just your name and email will be fine.
Yes. So we want to do it this way because right now, if we just throw in the way Ryan and I spoke offline about this is right now we just don't want a Spartacus situation where if we just throw out it was hippogriff, then everyone's
I'm hippogriff. I want that $100.
Everyone's gonna email us saying that they're hippogriff.
Yeah.
So please just shoot us an email. If you're a new reviewer, please shoot us that review on Apple and then shoot us an email saying who you are.
And we're thinking about holding this at the end of the season, right?
Yeah, so we want to give everybody enough ample time to actually write a review and to kind of make it, because the way we stagger out our episodes, we just want to give people ample enough time. Yeah. So the way we're thinking about it is we want to announce the winner during our review episode for season 2, which based off our calculations should drop on December 3rd. So it's plenty of time to actually enter in your name. And I'll be blasting this all over the Instagram as a reminder. So follow us on Instagram and you'll see some updates.
Yeah.
Anything else on that?
I don't think so. I think it's an exciting way to wrap up the second season at the end of the year.
Yeah, and it's a thank you for all the 5-star reviews and a little bit of bribery to get more 5 stars.
I'm not above bribing people
Yeah.
or taking bribes. Either way,
We'll take bribes, we'll give bribes.
I'm saying,
My next child's going to be named Bribe.
bribe. I'm gonna call you bribe.
All right. Other housekeeping. Pudding flavor results.
Oh yeah,
Last week, I told everyone that I would make a Survey Monkey because I'm a boomer, and my poll on Instagram is lost forever now.
it's gone. You're gonna have to
So,
let it go, Rob.
so a little bit of context if this is your first episode. The previous episode, we had an IQ point on the best flavor of pudding because Sheldon likes chocolate and Raj likes tapioca. So we wanted a poll out there to figure out what everyone else thought. Um, let's look at the results if there are any. Okay, no one responded.
Oh,
Well, if you follow the show notes, there is a survey to the pudding poll. So if you're so inclined, let us know what your favorite pudding flavor is. And last piece of housekeeping is our neighbor update. For any new listeners out there, you should definitely check out episode 22, which was our recap of season 2, episode 4, the Griffin equivalency. There's about a half-hour chunk on there about a homicide that happened next door to me. So we've been kind of following that after every episode. So you should really just check that out, if anything.
yeah,
But
it's worth it.
But last episode, there was a really quick update that I needed to follow up on. So I did a little bit of research on that just to know where the girl is at this point.
Uh-huh.
But I mentioned last time that I found a court date, but I didn't have time to look into it. Basically, the girl is in what's called the call of the list. But I don't think every state has this. But in my state of where the incident happened, a call of the list is a hearing that will occur if a resolution is not made between the defendant and the prosecution during pretrial. At this point, after some continuances, the court cases will need to be placed onto one of 3 tracks. The first track is ARD if she qualifies. This is accelerated rehabilitative disposition, where a person can plead not guilty to a criminal charge but agree to accept a punishment from the court. By completing the punishment, the person is able to file paperwork to have the charges dismissed or expunged. This only applies to non-violent offenders.
Yeah, so that one.
This is kind of out the window for her.
Yeah.
Number 2, a guilty plea. Or 3, if they plan on going to trial. So basically, she's at this point where it's shit or get off the pot. She needs to decide if she's going to be guilty or just proceed with trial.
Well, from what I remember, she's pleading self-defense, so
Yeah.
they're probably going to go to trial.
Yeah. So more on that later, and we will be following this trial as best as we can.
Mm-hmm.
So more on that later.
I would imagine she'd get self-defense because the situation. Well, I don't know. It's hard because
it's hard to say because there were several shots in his back at like the evidence points that he was running away.
Yeah.
So that doesn't at that point, which kind of sucks because she was, according to her, being attacked. That the first couple shots could have been in self-defense. And the thing is, when you're in a situation like that, your adrenaline is going. You're not thinking. You're just going to keep firing. So that's where it's like
in horror movies where the killer they don't go and check or keep stabbing the killer. They stab him once and like, oh, I did it, and then the killer gets back up and kills them. But it's like,
well, if they kept going, that's no longer self-defense. Guess who's going to jail?
Exactly. The killer is then, Ghostface is then the victim.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yikes.
Uh-huh.
But more updates to come.
Okay.
Hopefully you all find this interesting.
And I was going to add something. It's a little bit of a tangent, but I think we've talked about how Rob and I are constantly trying to make the show better, and that we've upgraded our equipment over the past year. We started doing YouTube, so on and so on. And we're still learning, but I listened to this audiobook, and of course it was an audiobook on aliens, that those videos, what was it, the Navy released, or was it the Air Force released like
with
last
the
year?
UFOs.
Yeah, it got me interested in alien books, so I've been reading some about aliens. And the last audiobook I listened to, I'm pretty sure the guy recorded it at his home, and I swear I heard like toilets flushing. Like, wow, that builds your credibility. So I'm hoping we're not quite that bad, but we're trying.
I feel like with us, it's just hearing my baby cry in the background.
That, and maybe my dog whining here and there.
Yeah, but that's adorable. A baby crying is less
cute.
than adorable. Sorry, Hunter, if you're listening to this. Not so adorable.
We blame you, Hunter.
Yeah, you ruined this podcast. But I still love you. Just a little less.
By a little, I mean a lot.
All right. That's it for housekeeping. Anything else?
That's all I've got.
All right. So let's talk financial permeability.
Permeability.
Overall thoughts?
I thought this was another solid episode. It was just fun. This is, not too much thought. Not a huge amount of IQ points, but some nice character development. Get some, what I really like is seeing a positive side to Sheldon. And we don't see that too much. And some funny stuff, and again, brings the plot along a little bit too.
Yeah, if anyone's gonna have a good quality, the way that they view money like this in a very healthy way is actually just really good out of anybody.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of people out there that aren't like this, that would never loan money out and everything like that. So for how chill he is was actually a little shocking.
I remember there's an episode of Frasier where he loans Roz money. And it's like the opposite, where he's then hounding her, like, what did you go out and spend my money on? She's like, you loan me the money, you don't get to talk. So
yeah, because I'm going to pay you. Yeah, I must not be there yet, because I've been rewatching Frasier. It's so awesome. I love it. Forget how much I love Frasier. It still holds up. There are some issues here and there just because of the times and everything like that, but that's just because of the times. It was the mid
20 years old, right?
Yeah, so like there's some racially insensitive things here and there, and like a lot of homophobia stuff here and there, but it's kind of like, but you know what, it was the mid 90s, so it was just it was a product of the times. But
agreed. And I don't think, as opposed to some shows, compared to like Quagmire on Family Guy, it's nowhere close to that.
Oh my god.
But yeah, Frasier is still kind of like, if I'm ever feeling kind of low or just need something on in the background, it's my go-to.
Yeah. It's really good still. It's shocking how it still holds up. I'm still like laughing out loud at a lot of jokes and everything like that. So yeah. Yeah, so maybe we'll start a Frasier podcast after this.
Oh, that'd be great.
All right.
See you in 10 years.
Well, in this episode, I found 4 IQ points.
That's what I had, too.
Oh, maybe it's the same ones.
Dun, dun, dun.
This is Season 2, Episode 14, The Financial Permeability. Aired February 2nd, 2009, written by Chuck Lorre, Bill Prady, and teleplay by Richard Rosenstock, and directed, as always, by Mark Sandrowski.
Of course.
We are at the apartment, and the guys are gathered around a complex chart and are in deep thought.
Oh, I want to say one thing about the air date. You ever look at these dates and, like, think about where you were on those days?
Well, now I am. Where were you on this day?
I was.
Where were you on February 2nd, 2009?
Very hungover. It was the day after my birthday, so
that's right.
I know. I remember that hangover. That was a tough one.
2009. I don't think did we know each other then?
Nope.
Yeah,
we didn't know.
We were like 2000. 11?
11 or 12,
2010?
yeah.
Because I remember it was definitely before 12, because I remember 12 birthday.
Yep.
So it must have been like 11 or 10.
I think it must have been 11. Oh man, I'd have to double check. I've been here for like 10 years. I just got a nice little plaque from my work saying, "Congratulations, you gave us 10 years of your life. Here's a plaque."
That's crazy that we've only known each other for 10 years then.
Right? Well,
It feels longer.
It does feel longer.
Yeah.
It's a quarter of our lives, but still, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, more than a quarter.
I guess because we've hung out a lot, we've kept in touch a lot.
That's true.
Yeah, I guess that's a little shocking.
We've buried a few bodies together. That really bonds
it really bonds you.
Yeah. Let's never talk about that again. All right, so anyways, I was just thinking that, like, this is getting into, and eventually it's going to be times when we did know each other, so that's going to be interesting. Like, what
yeah, we'll have to recall every episode. Where were you on this day?
Where were you?
All right. Well, the guys are contemplating this unsolvable problem. And then they start to recap what the chart is all about. And it turns out that it's their evening plans of dinner and a movie.
Where to see the movie.
Yeah. They can't seem to figure out the best itinerary. And surprise, surprise, it's all Sheldon's fault.
Of course.
He is the biggest naysayer and the reason why they're having trouble. First, he eliminates multiple theaters due to the lack of icy machines. And then he can't go to a theater because they have Twizzlers instead of Redvines. And no amount of lumbar support can compensate for that.
We get one for me being not like Sheldon. I prefer Twizzlers.
Well, we will get into this later because I have an IQ point on Snack Wars.
Snack Wars. Oh, wow.
As I will be calling it, Snack Wars.
I've got one on Ices.
Ooh, I have I have Twizzlers versus Redvines, and then Ices versus Slurpies.
The Snack Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what about you? Twizzlers or Redvines? I know a lot of people. I always thought Redvines were like the cheap version of Twizzlers, but I've met a lot of people in recent years who really love the Redvines.
I am very passionately in the camp that they're both garbage. I really don't like either of them.
Really?
This is not my movie theater snack.
When I was really young, it was my go-to. These, and
there is no red licorice flavor. There is none. It's only black. There's only black licorice. But that's otherwise, that's the licorice flavor. There is no such thing as red licorice in the world. It's made up.
But black licorice is only flavored with like anise, right? Star anise.
But that's what licorice is, though.
But is it? But it's cherry. It's just cherry flavor. It's like cherry Coke. It's just strawberry, maybe. I don't know. It's red. No. It tastes like red.
What flavor is that? Red.
It's red. But I used to get like the little Twizzlers and throw a couple in my mouth and then get a big swig of Dr. Pepper and it would like freeze them kind of. And
really?
It was just like, yeah, it was good. But then I realized that I could do the same thing with Milk Duds. And basically it would freeze the Milk Dud and I could bite down and like crack the caramel. And it was a pleasant taste.
Milk Duds are pretty dope.
I like Milk Duds. Some people think they're like rat poison, but I love them.
Well, what's wrong with rat poison?
I eat it. Yeah, it's very delicious. Makes me thirsty.
You know what? When you cover it in chocolate, rat poison is delicious.
Amen. Yeah. Don't eat rat poison, people.
Please don't. Please don't. And that's how we end up in jail and our podcast ends. Somebody is going to eat rat poison covered in chocolate.
It was self-defense.
Well, we do learn that Sheldon is passionately pro Redvines.
He is Redvines.
So as we get into more and more back and forth, Raj suggests eating after the movie, which seems like a good idea, but again, naysayed by Sheldon. And then, as you said that you have an IQ point on Slurpees, he brings up, hey, let's just sneak in Slurpees because they're the same as ices. But again, Sheldon denies this. So the only option left is to ditch Sheldon.
It's the only
And,
answer.
and here we will get into our IQ point regarding food, which we will call Snack Wars.
Snack Wars.
Would you like to take us through a journey through ices?
I could go with ices first. This reminds me. I might have mentioned this on another one, but I remember when I was a kid, there were action figures of snacks and food that were like soldiers, and it's like a thing of French fries with arms and like a gun or something, and like a ice cream sundae with like grenades. And I always really wanted them, but I remember grandma's like, "Those are garbage. Get something else." And so, but anyways, Snack Wars. That's what it's reminding me of.
Yeah.
Okay, so Slurpees and ices, or maybe we should just say slushies. These are syrupy drinks that are frozen and iced over. Um, and according to everything I found, but we're going with Wikipedia because it had the most condensed information in history. They are all the same. That ices were first developed by an owner of a Dairy Queen owner in Kansas, whose soda machines broke down, so he started putting bottles of soda in his freezer. And the way that the chemistry worked, for some reason, as soon as they opened up the bottles of soda, they froze over into a slush, like almost like crystallization, from my understanding. And it turned out people liked that concoction, that ability to drink soda in that fashion. So they started selling them like that, and he got with a company and developed machines that could do this. Wikipedia says that they did it with like a car AC unit or something, or some, they probably pretty, what's the word, MacGyvery for the first unit, but they made a unit that could make these slushy drinks, and they called it ices, and they worked on the branding and stuff. But then 7-Eleven came along, and they got the rights to use the machines from Icy, but they also made a deal that they could call it their own name, which was Slurpee, based on the sound the drink makes when you drink it, especially when you get to the bottom. But technically, it's the same machines. It's the same type of drink. It's just 7-Eleven calls theirs Slurpees and has that copyrighted for them, their own particular name for it. Um, I think that's about all I had. I thought there was something else, but yeah,
Yeah, they're definitely the same thing because I found some research that did some blind taste tests of
uh,
similar flavors. So it is the same machine that makes a Slurpee and an icy. It's just that each company will make different flavors, but they do have some crossover flavors. And when they conducted blind taste tests, people could not tell a difference.
mm,
So they're basically sorry, Sheldon, ices and Slurpees are the same thing.
same thing.
It might just be that he might have a flavor of icy, now that I'm thinking about it, that he specifically wants that 7-Eleven doesn't have.
He didn't
That
state it
might be
that
it.
way. He made it seem like he likes the logo or something. Something about that is
Maybe because it was the original.
it's the
But if he
original.
liked originals, then I think he should like Twizzlers more because Twizzlers came first.
That makes
So
maybe
it's
he just
not
likes the polar
necessarily
bear because
original.
it is a cute polar bear on the icy logo. So,
That's true.
uh,
Are you a Slurpee and Icy fan?
uh, I don't often go out of my way to get them, but I've never had one I disliked.
Yeah, I was never a big fan because the the big thing about these is that they're iced slushy drinks, but they're carbonated.
Yeah.
And I remember as a child, I just didn't like soda because I wasn't a big fan of carbonation. So that's why I wasn't the biggest fan of Slurpees. We lived really close to a 7-Eleven. So every once in a while, friends would go out and get like some Slurpees, but I'd be like, nah, I'm good. I'll
That's
just get a Powerade.
when I was a kid, like I cut this out or leave it in, I don't even care, but I couldn't burp like I didn't know how. Like when I had gas buildup, especially drinking like soda, it just hurt a lot and I couldn't make myself burp. And so I kind of avoided soda because it just caused like a horrible amount of pain in my esophagus. But over the years, I've, you know, basically treated myself like a baby, pat myself on the back to get myself to burp, and taught myself how to burp. And soda's not so bad anymore. So
Okay.
I could
Hope not,
see,
because with the amount of beer you drink too.
yeah, right. I don't think I'd be drinking as much beer. Maybe that's a good thing, or it would have been a good thing, but I'm happy.
You figured it out.
Figure it out. I've also heard that you can like put like vodka or gin into a Slurpee or icy and make it a little fun beverage.
Really? I
That's
thought the whole point of alcohol was that it couldn't freeze. There must
um
be something in the rotation of it all, and
it starts to melt it a little bit, but the soda that stays kind of frozen. And I'm not talking about in the machine. I maybe you could do that if you own your own machine, but I've just seen people like put some alcohol in their cup and pour it and then put some on top, and it kind of mixes in, and it's a nice little thing. But it's kind of like popsicles. They're making like alcoholic popsicles now too, so
nice, as they should.
as they should. As it's the dream.
All right. Well, anything else on Icy and Slurpee?
That's all I got.
All right. Well, to carry on with Snack Wars, we have
Snack Wars.
Twizzlers versus Redvines. So, I went on multiple sites to see everyone's preference, and I found tastemade.com, which declared Twizzlers the superior product.
Because they
Where,
are.
yep. And then I found a video on BuzzFeed on YouTube that actually said Twizzlers were the winner as well.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I think they're both trash. But anyways,
Red Vines just kind of taste. They're extra dry and they just kind of crumble in my mouth and they don't have as much taste.
You know what it is? We'll get into why it's probably like that.
They mix it. Have you ever seen that episode of Doug where he's selling chocolate bars and people are like, "These chocolate bars taste like cement," and he goes to the chocolate factory and it's because they're mixing cement into the chocolate. So that explains it.
The memory is flooding back to me now. Oh my god.
It tastes like. Well, that's why.
Yeah. Well, what are the differences between Twizzlers and Redvines? It got me, like I said, I'm not a huge fan, so I actually had some fun unraveling this mystery.
Uh-huh.
But there really isn't a huge difference between the two in appearance, but Redvines have been around since 1914 and became popular in the 1950s. But as I said, Twizzlers came first. They were created in 1845.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but didn't reach popularity until the 1960s. The key difference between the two, when you really dissect them, is the ingredients list. Twizzlers have twice as many ingredients than Redvines. So naturally, they're going to have different tastes and textures.
Yeah.
And I'm in food manufacturing, so I understand that all these different products and other binders and everything can alter flavors and textures and everything.
Definitely.
So as you add more binders and things to it, it's going to be a little bit more chewier, a little bit more softer, not crumbly.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for something more natural, then Redvines should be your go-to. And if you're interested in watching that BuzzFeed video, it's actually really fun to watch. So I suggest hopping on YouTube and watching it. They did some fun experimenting between the two. They compared them in different categories. Which one is the better straw? Which Redvines is a better straw, apparently. And then it got weird. They tested durability. They ran them over with a car, and then the health, which was a tie. Then the healthier one is Redvines because there's less ingredients, and then they checked the flammability.
I was gonna say is flammability because that's got to come up with something that is very caloric. I mean, it's like that's one of the things you do with chips is what type of chip is most flammable, and apparently Doritos are really flammable. So.
Shit. Well, Twizzlers are more flammable.
Nice.
Twizzlers are also more aerodynamic. They just
Mm.
threw it as far as they could. And then they started whipping each other for a pain test, which Twizzlers resulted in the bigger pain.
They seem a little denser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the dog test. The dog preferred Redvines. But at this point, all jokes aside, they took three. They did a blind taste test amongst 3 people that have never had either of them.
How's that possible?
I mean, pick a candy. I'm sure someone in the world hasn't had it.
We've raised 3 people from birth to make sure that they have not had this. And now they go down into like a basement. There's just kids in cages.
All right, who wants to try a red vine? I'd like to taste fresh air.
I'll eat your red vine and we'll talk about it.
All right. But the winner of the blind taste test, it was unanimous. Twizzlers won. So Sheldon is wrong. Sheldon is in the minority.
He's in the minority. Although, again, I've met some people in the recent years that really prefer the red vine. I don't know what it is about it. But to each his own, even if they're wrong.
Well, to carry on with a little bit of snack wars, got me thinking about what did people rank as the best movie theater snacks? So I found this on ranker.com. This was a vote amongst 12,900 voters. And this was most recently updated this past June 23rd, 2023. There were 58 items on the list, and I wrote down the top 10. So what do you think is on that list?
I'm going to say Reese's Pieces, M&M's, Junior Mints.
You got 2 out of 3.
Damn.
Are on that top 10 list. Junior Mints might have been on there, but just
further down. I was throwing that one out as kind of like the curveball one that like people eat it and it sells, but nobody likes to admit that they eat it.
I like Junior Mints. Like I actually really like them.
I do too.
Yeah.
Maybe Skittles or Starburst.
Skittles is on the list.
Nice.
But you know what? What's not on the list of the top 10?
What?
Twizzlers or Redvines.
Really?
Yep. Twizzlers came at number 25, and Redvines came in at 51.
Wow.
So here's the top 10. Starting at number 10, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Number 9.
That's a good one.
Reese's Pieces. Number 8, Nachos.
Oh,
it's movie theaters do sell nachos.
They do.
Number 7, Skittles. But I'm questioning the validity of this list because this was also ranked at 21. It was on there twice. It wasn't even a different flavor. It was both original.
I was gonna say if it was like maybe tropical Skittles like a 21, but it's just...
Yeah. So I questioned the validity of this list, but you know what? It's all I could find.
Hey, I've thrown out the results. You said nachos. I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
That's a meal. Damn it.
That's nutrition.
I sprinkled some tomatoes on there. Well, number 6, Icy. Number 5, Kit Kats.
Oh yeah.
Number 4, M&M's. And it looks like it was specifically the plain one. And the peanut M&M's, if you're curious, came in at number 13. Number 3, Sour Patch Kids.
I feel like those have grown in popularity. Maybe they were always popular, but I see more people getting them now. As a kid, like I'm like, who the hell gets those? And like as I've grown up,
I was really into Sour Patch Kids in high school. Really into it. Number 2, again, questioning the validity of this. They put Coca-Cola on there.
Yeah,
So just soda. That come on, that
that's
doesn't
not fair.
that
You're gonna have to get a drink
yeah.
anyway, so it's
Yeah.
a different realm.
Well, number one, shocker, popcorn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say something that like I didn't realize I like. I like Milk Duds. Did you see where Milk Duds ranked?
I know it was somewhere on there, but I did not document that.
Non. I always mispronounce it. Non-perils. Non-perils.
What's that?
Snow caps.
Oh, that I did see that on the list. I just don't know what number it is.
As a kid, I always thought they were stupid, and then I have an ex-girlfriend whose dad really liked them. I'm like, that's stupid. And I tried them. Like, you got something. You're onto something. And you like mix them in with popcorn, and your hand gets all dirty because like there's no coating to actually keep them from melting. But you got that. They're good, and they have that like mix of texture, the soft and the crunch, and
you get some snow caps.
yeah, I like them. And
what's your like? What when you go to a theater? What do you bring, or what do you buy?
What do I bring?
Okay, because that leads me into something else that I did some research on. Sorry, everybody, but this is a really long IQ point because there's so much to unravel.
Well, it's
but
Snack Wars.
Well, yeah, because also like they talked about sneaking in their own Slurpees, so it got me wondering. Because I sneak in shit all the time. That I will not buy things at the theater. That is so upcharged. I can't. I cannot justly pay for that stuff.
But there's something about it, like when I pay that much, it just tastes better. I don't know why, but it's that cognitive dissonance in my mind, like, well, I'm paying more, it's gotta be better.
Okay, the popcorn is better because you got that pump thing. So
oh, yeah.
The popcorn is better, but
keep pumping.
Yeah.
Just keep going. It's like
but
little kernels floating in butter.
But I've snuck in like bags of popcorn and everything like that. We used to like buy like little bags of like whatever the brand it was and everything. I forgot what the brand was, but like you just like pop it at home and then you just put it in a Ziploc bag and just bring it.
What's his Orville Redenbacher?
Orville Redenbacher,
yeah, there we go. I'm like that's some. I was like Colonel Redenbacher. No, it's not a Colonel.
Well, my thing now is I always sneak in a flask. And then I always do Chex Mix because I love the crunchiness of like Chex Mix, especially extra rye chips. And then I sprinkle in a little bit of peanut M&Ms or at least some sort of chocolate because I want that sweet and salty.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
If popcorn's always a thing. If I do candy, it is usually Milk Duds these days. I did go through a phase where I liked Bunch of Crunch a lot. And I think I mentioned when I was really young, I did Twizzlers. But, Milk Duds they make me feel youthful.
And it is like a little softer chew because there is like there was something I brought before that was extra crunchy and then I felt like it was these Japanese style, I forgot what it was called. It was like a Japanese peanut thing that has like that kind of wafery outside. Is like a wafer outside and a peanut inside, but they're like extra crunchy, so I kind of felt like, am I being too loud?
Crunch.
Do all my neighbors hate me right now?
You're like watching Schindler's List. Crunch. Like, what the hell is wrong with this guy?
Well, I wanted to do a little, again, carrying on with the IQ point, the craziest things that people have snuck into a movie theater. Because most movie theaters really don't care. You could bring in pretty much whatever you want, and people say that they don't care. I've never been in a position where I've been stopped. But then again, I've never really snuck in anything too crazy.
I can't imagine the people who are actually enforcing that get paid enough to care.
Well, have you stuck in anything crazy?
No, I don't think so. I want to say I believe I've had pot brownies before going, but never in the theater itself.
So the craziest thing that I've stuck in is I've stuck in a whole pumpkin pie.
Nice.
I was going to the movies with my friend. We had a few minutes before the movie. There was a grocery store right next to the theater, so we went to like, let's go get some snacks and everything like that. And we were just like, it was like fall, so I was like, you know what? I really want some pumpkin pie. So I had a big jacket on, so I bought the whole pie. I grabbed a couple forks from the prepared foods area, and we had pie.
It work.
Yeah, we made it work. But I found this article of, I wanted to see what other people have done, and BuzzFeed had this article about the craziest things that people have snuck into a theater. Any guesses? There's some like interesting stuff on this list. I wrote down like
somebody say like a barbecue meal one time. They like brought in ribs. I'm like, that's pretty bold.
Yeah. Well, in the article, someone brought in a whole watermelon.
Nice.
Another person did milk and cereal, like legit a box of cereal and a half gallon of milk with a bowl, and just ate that. Then like takeout meals like Panda Express.
Yeah.
Someone brought sushi. And then the weirdest thing that I saw, which is actually pretty like legit, is someone brought cupcakes and a tube of buttercream frosting. So they frosted them at the theater, which makes sense because you can't frost it before because it's harder to sneak in.
Yeah.
So you bring the tube, and then you bring in all the cupcakes, and then you just frost them and hand them out.
And start passing them along.
That's genius. And that's Snack Wars.
Snack Wars. What a good way to end it.
Yeah. Well, I also was still on the movie theater topic. I was a little curious of what movie I was wondering what movie that they were actually watching.
Uh-huh.
What do you think that they're going to go? So I looked up Box Office Mojo, and here is the top 10 movies of Box Office around February 2nd, 2009. Do you remember what movies were out then? I know, it's hard to...
Right after Dark Knight Rises, so... I can't remember.
I know, it's hard to look back, but here are the top 10. Number 10, Gran Torino. Number 9, The Pink Panther 2. 8, Confessions of a Shopaholic.
Oh, yeah.
7, Paul Blart Mall Cop. Number 6, Slumdog Millionaire. Number 5, Coraline. Number 4, Friday the 13th. Number 3, Madea Goes to Jail, which grossed $60 million that weekend.
I don't even know what that is.
It's one of the Tyler Perry movies where he dresses up as like a woman, where he's like...
Oh, I gotcha.
Number 2, He's Just Not That Into You, grossed $77 million. And number 1, Taken. Grossed
there you go.
$84 million. I'm guessing they would probably see Taken.
Yeah, that's gotta be.
Either that, or I would say...
Gran Torino?
Maybe. I don't know. It's like...
I doubt they'd see Coraline.
Maybe Friday the 13th, you think? Would they be into horror?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Either that or maybe like... Paul Blart. Just no, I can't see them seeing Paul Blart. Maybe Coraline for the animation.
I think it was probably Taken.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, I loved He's Just Not That Into You. I thought that
was a really good one. Yeah.
Everybody did a great job in it.
Yep. All right. So finally moving on. 48 minutes into this, and we're finally moving on.
And we're almost at the intro.
All right. So now we're in the hallway, and Sheldon is coming home with a pack of Redvines.
Of course he is.
Penny is coming up the stairs in a hurry, and she tells Sheldon to shut the door. And she shuts the door on him. Penny's hiding from the building manager since she's behind on rent and her car broke down. So Sheldon is very uncomfortable harboring a fugitive. And this was a nice callback to her check engine light.
Yeah, it really was. Bring that back up.
Well, he realizes that all of her problems would be solved with a little bit more money. So he goes to a jar guarded by snakes and pulls out a wad of cash. He offers it to Penny. Penny resists, but then Sheldon tells her that he doesn't need the money until the world develops technology to affordably infuse adamantium to his bones, which would be fucking awesome.
What I made a note about this that I thought it was funny that she knew what he was talking about. She goes, "Are they actually working on that?
Are they doing that? You know what adamantium is?"
Yeah, so they must have. I don't know. Maybe she's into Marvel or Wolverine.
Or she's been around them long enough where she's like,
one of those things. It clicked. she knew what it was.
Well, there's this back and forth, but Penny doesn't want it to be weird. But then Sheldon makes a comment that it would also be weird if he had to say hello to her every morning on the way to work, and she's living in a refrigerator box and washing her hair with rainwater.
I love that line. Oh, it's also going to be awkward if I have to pass you on my way to work.
Yeah, and now this convinces her to take it. So then, fast forward, and we're at the lobby. Sheldon and Leonard enter the apartment lobby and check their mail, and they're having a discussion about Sheldon being a house pet to a race of super intelligent aliens. He thinks that there's going to be a lot of learning opportunities as a pet, and he loves his belly being scratched. Enter Penny. She's having a relatively bad day, it seems, and she sarcastically says that she wishes that she could work at the Cheesecake Factory her entire life. And I love this, that Sheldon doesn't understand sarcasm.
Was that sarcasm?
Wait, was that sarcasm?
No, it wasn't. Was that sarcasm? Yes. Was that sarcasm?
And then Sheldon flags down Penny because she missed that she has a package. It's the beret that she ordered months ago. And she wants to make it clear that she didn't use the borrowed money. She ordered it months ago. And then Sheldon ignores this, kind of going along with his character that he doesn't care about the money.
He's not paying attention to it. Yeah, it just doesn't click. Yeah.
He gives her a fun fact. The beret is an example of women's fashion adapted from military uniforms. Another fascinating example is the epaulet. And I did an IQ point on this.
I did too. Do you want to go first? I want to see what you got because I'm curious what...
Sure. So I did a little bit of research on what an epaulet was because at this point I had no idea what that was.
Oh, you didn't?
I'm obviously not very fashionable.
I remember for some reason when I was a kid I was calling epaulets I believe I had like what was I calling them? On a suit, like the flaps of the coat. And my dad's like, "You're misusing that term. It's the things on the shoulder." I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And then one day he like pointed them out to me. I'm like, "What the fuck are those?" But the word stuck in my head. But epaulets, yeah.
Yeah, it's a shoulder ornament. Yeah, and now that I look back at it, I think that term might be used in Destiny.
I could see that.
Because there's a lot of ornaments that you could do to decorate your character, and I believe like epaulet is on there.
It's something that like goes over the shoulder.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different kinds. The ones that I'm used to are just like little folds and buttons on the shoulders.
Yeah, they have those. They have like kind of dangly things and kind of like, or maybe pieces of like armor and stuff like that. Like
Cloud Strife in Final Fantasy VII, isn't that like the shoulder thing
kind of, yeah. It's useful but ornamental at the same time. Yeah, I did a quick research on this, and it's still in fashion today on many styles of jackets still and dresses. So, but onward with the IQ point is I also wanted to know what the deal was with berets. Like, what is the military purpose of a beret?
Do you say beret or beret?
Beret. I should be saying beret, shouldn't I?
I misspelled it beret. And like had to do a kind of a little deep dive into pronunciation, but it's Beret, right? Yeah. Okay,
It's
because
French.
yeah, at first I was like Berrett, and that's not right. Like it took me a little while.
That's not right.
That's not right.
But I wanted to know what the deal was with berets and what else comes into our fashion from the military. So I found this on Wikipedia and apetoGentleman.com. So, berets, what's the deal with them?
What's the
Berets actually,
deal?
like, what's the deal? But it turns out that berets actually do have a tactical purpose. The French military in the late 1800s needed headgear that would stay on while climbing in and out of small hatches of tanks. It has a snug fit and an exterior that can be lined with a headband to wick away any sweat. They were also meant to protect the soldier's hair from the oil in the tank, but not to take up space in a cramped environment.
Mm.
And then the American military unofficially used berets around World War II. And then after the Vietnam War, use of berets became more official. During this time, morale in the US Army waned. So from 1973 through 1979, the Army authorized local commanders to encourage morale enhancing uniform distinctions. Consequently, many units embraced various colored berets, and the colors would distinguish between the different branches. And that's berets.
It's, I got a little bit on that too, and I like that you mentioned the U.S. military because I had a note of that, but didn't explain it that much. But it's kind of like when we think the Green Berets, right? That it's the way we identify different soldiers, different units. But I went to hatsandcaps.co.uk, and they claim that they actually started off in ancient Greece with the military, but the way that we know them today originate from Basques and France and both the French and Spanish sides of the mountains, I guess. Both countries started wearing them, and it also mentioned that Scotland had a form, I believe, of hat, but worn by fishermen that were a little bit different, but kind of the same style. So there was kind of multiple origins, but like you said, in the wars, the Great Wars, the French started using it quite a bit. World War One, it became a little bit more fashionable for men and women, not in the military to use it, but World War II, the French Resistance, like you said, tanks. But the big thing was, and I always mispronounce his name. Forgive me. Che Guevara from Cuba. He was the Cuban revolutionist, and he is one of the biggest icons on like handbags for college students. Take a Google him really quick because you'll know the image as soon as you see it, and you're like, oh, I just thought that was an image that college students had or whatever. Which is kind of sad, but he was a huge revolutionarist and revolutionist.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about now?
Yeah.
But it's like this thing that you just see college students wearing all the time, and you're like, "Do you even know who that guy is?" And they're like, "Oh, I just thought it was a cool." No, it's like it's actually really
He's actually a
important.
historical figure.
Yeah, yeah. And so the reason I mentioned this, and part of the reason I want you to go first, is that when Sheldon said like it was part of the military, became it before it became women's fashion. I don't like maybe it's part of the military, but I don't think it ever substantially became women's fashion. It was just fashion in general. And I don't think at any point was it like, oh, this is just what women wear. And this website mentioned, Monica Lewinsky wearing one infamously or famously. But I've never known them to be just solely for women. It's like a baseball cap. Women wear baseball caps or cowboy
Yeah.
hats. So, all right, so that's what my thinking was. But some interesting stuff that it was kind of military. And I did, excuse me, do think that the big thing was, like you said, the French and the war with tanks and not taking up space.
Yeah, like that, and that's one thing that was because I always saw berets and I knew that they're military or something like that. Where it was like, well, why? there must be a reason for this. It can't just be like they wouldn't do something decorative. I mean,
The
they have
epaulets
epaulets,
were, right?
but it's like there must be a reason why they have this, because you wouldn't go to war just with like without like
Because I look pretty.
I'm going to distract them with my fashion. Well, this all got me wondering about what other clothes found its way into fashion from the military.
Yeah.
And also, like, how did it find its way into like how did we base a lot of our fashion from military garb? And during wartime, apparently the government does spend lots of time and money into effective clothing for their soldiers. So much money that it actually dwarfs any luxury line.
Wow.
And with that, it means that there's a huge surplus. And it has to go somewhere. And this has allowed the youth and streetwear subcultures to see value in this military clothing because of the durability and the accessibility. So that's kind of how all this stuff finds its way into fashion, because like people go look for cheap clothing. Hey, I found a box of berets. I guess I'm wearing a beret.
That's what I'm wearing.
And then some famous celebrity is going to find it, and now it's the thing.
I know a lot of like handbags and backpacks they really advertise the military ruggedness, and it's become like, even if it's not military grade or really rugged, they go with the designs just because those designs are what's become popular.
Yeah, because like they're a lot more, like I said, like they're durable, they last a long time, so you don't have to worry about like holes or like tears in it and everything like that.
They make you feel like you're not grungy,
roughing
but
it.
You're roughing it, and you're strong, and you can endure the wilderness, you know. Yeah. Even though you're just taking around Six Flags or whatever. Yeah.
Have you been to Six Flags or Disneyland lately? It's a fucking war zone.
It's a goddamn war zone.
Well, here are some other noteworthy clothing that has derived from the military. Khakis, or anything khaki colored. This was the more practical alternative in America to the blood red uniforms worn by the British Army in the late 19th century. Many styles of jackets, think bomber jackets and trench coats. And I didn't realize this, but trench coats were for the highly ranked officers to protect them against mud and guts during World War One.
That makes sense. Trench, yeah. Like they were in a trench. Ah,
yeah. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Sounds dumb, but I really didn't.
That's never clicked with me.
Yeah. Aviator sunglasses, which I have and love.
I love aviators.
Wristwatches. Yeah. And I also learned that people in the military wear their watches inward. That way, as they can check the time as they're holding their gun.
Oh, that makes sense.
And then I also found this interesting article on military.com about other items that have been rooted from the military. Because the military, like I said earlier, spends millions of dollars every year updating technology.
Yeah.
And updating and like working on their research and development for things that could be useful during wartime. But some things actually just end up in our daily lives. Here are some things. Every year, the military spends tens of millions of dollars on researching and developing new products. From the behind the scenes work that tracks what's necessary to the science that makes it possible, to prototypes and testing it all out in action. New inventions are brought to life through military research and development every day. Here are some common products. Modern undershirts came about in 1904. Sanitary napkins came about in 1914. As I mentioned earlier, aviator sunglasses came out in the 1930s. Jeeps came out in 1940. Aerosol bug sprays in 1941. Because as they sent their people overseas, they needed something quick to spray away bugs.
Yeah.
Duct tape came out in 1942. And the big one, the microwave, 1946. And it was a total accident. This was originally radar technology used to identify enemy locations.
Mm.
Heating food was actually just a happy accident.
I was gonna say GPS was military, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like things that we don't even think of, but microwave and facial
Yeah.
food, yeah. Well,
All
thank you,
right. Yeah.
military.
That's my IQ point on military fashion.
I'm floored by the trench coat. That's something I should have known or put together, but it's never clicked.
I know.
Wow.
You see it in old war movies and everything like that they're wearing, like, the officers wear trench coats and everything, but you never realize that there's actually a reason.
Yeah. And not trench means like trench warfare. It's the same trench. I figured it was a different
Yeah.
word. I don't know.
All right. Well, at this talk back to her beret, Penny gets weird and storms off, and Leonard points out that it was an unusual interaction. And I love this, that Sheldon's like, oh, good, that was unusual. I wasn't sure.
That's where we get one point like Sheldon having to ask, like, I thought it might be weird, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
Not knowing or understanding if a conversation is weird or unusual.
All right. Well, next scene, they're at the apartment and they are divvying up their takeout order. Penny tries to pay for her share, but Leonard won't let her. Raj makes a remark that if he wore skin tight jeans and a tank top, would he get his meal for free too? And this strikes up a chord with Penny and she blows up on Raj. And I love that Raj has to get up and run away because of his nervous bladder.
I love Howard saying, "Yeah, Raj," like immediately turns his mouth like,
so quick to turn on him.
"The fuck's wrong with you, man?"
We'll enter Sheldon, and Penny continues to freak out. She's been eating leftovers from the restaurant for 4 days, and now she wanted something different. So sue me. And then Sheldon, just again oblivious of the whole thing, says that would be the very definition of a frivolous lawsuit. And then as they go back and forth, Kat comes out of the bag and they find out that Sheldon loaned Penny money. And then he offers her more money, and then she's like, oh, you'd like that, wouldn't you? And then she just storms off. And then she has to slink back in because she forgot her fortune.
Forgot the fortune cookie.
And then Sheldon, high and mighty, lets everyone know that he moved his money stash. But then Leonard knows where it is. And he says, if you're ever short, there's always a couple of 50s in Green Lantern's ass.
I like that because it follows up on earlier where Sheldon's like, I hit it in the butt of an action, or it's in the action figure, it's in his butt. Or her butt. Green Lantern's ass.
And now we are at Penny's apartment. Penny's power has been shut off, and it's dinner by candlelight. Leonard tries to explain to her that Sheldon really doesn't care about the money. It's the only good quality about him. And
it's
Penny
one of the good qualities.
Yeah.
Right?
And Penny tells Leonard that her plan was to be a waitress for 6 months and then become a movie star. And plan B was to be a TV star.
I actually did a little IQ point here.
All right.
So, I think this is actually a really big thing when you are dreaming of becoming an artist like that. Like, when do you give up? How do you give up? How do you keep going? And I went to amptalent.com, and they gave some tips, and I felt like these tips were they made sense, and maybe they're, what's the word? Obvious, I guess, but at the same time, I think they require some thought. And if you are following something like that where it's kind of difficult to pursue your dreams, you should keep these in mind. But the first one was identify your legacy. And I thought this was interesting because I love writing, and I know a lot of writers, and I'd love to be a published writer for novels. But the notion is, when you write, you kind of have to have your or when you become a public figure or popular or famous, you have to have like a persona. And how are people going to remember you? What are they going to remember you for? What type of roles are you going to be known for? What books are you going to be known for? And I think with writing, a lot of times authors will pick up fake names, or what's the word, pen names,
Or
to
abbreviations or something like that. Yeah.
abbreviations, so that people disassociate them, so that they have like two different personas. If Stephen King was also writing erotica, I think he'd probably have to have a different name, because people would like be confused. So
Stefan King.
Stefan, Stefan. So identify your legacy to kind of get set up for, and set goals. And I think this goes with everything, but think about where you want to be, when you want to be, how you're going to get there. And that follows with, when it comes to businesses, it made me think of, what are they called, business plans, business books. When a business starts, they have basically a handbook, a guidebook of what they are, what their plan is,
A
what their
mission statement.
mission statement. Yeah. And it's called a living document, because the notion is businesses have to pivot constantly. Every day they have to be ready to change. And I think the same goes with artists, that they have these goals, but be ready to pivot those goals and modify them and change them, because life will play out and change what we're expecting at times. It also says surround yourself with people on a similar path. And I think that makes sense. If you are trying to stop drinking so much or stop using drugs, they say don't hang out with people who use drugs. You begin to take on the habits of people around you. So if you are around people who are interested in the same thing, you're going to get support. You're going to see them succeed, be pushed to succeed, excel, get information, tips, contacts, so on and so on. Welcome failure. And again, this goes with my notion of redefining your goals. In the website, it talked about, as an actress, actor, or artist, or whatever it might be, you're going to get a lot of no's, and you're going to get a lot of people telling you really stupid things. You're not pretty enough, you're not thin enough, you're not heavy enough, uh,
Or too perky.
you're too perky, you're too Ryany. I was thinking of I believe it was the sheriff on Stranger Things.
David Harbour.
Yeah, I believe he's the one who said that he's been waiting his whole life to be able to play the dad bod figure. And that he didn't get a whole lot of parts when he was younger, but something, he failed a lot, but getting to a certain point in his life, everybody just started hiring him because he started fitting the role. So sometimes it's completely out of your control. It's not about how good or bad you are. It's just the world. And you have to be able to welcome that failure until you get somewhere. And, this website said follow stories for inspiration, see what other people are doing, read memoirs. Know that not everybody makes it the first time. A lot of people fail a lot. Some people do give up and then come back. And I'm interested because I found on a different website a link to a podcast called How to Fail by Elizabeth Day. And it makes it sound like it's about giving people the okay to accept failure, to accept that my dreams are not going to happen, so I need to give up on them. But from what I'm understanding, it's not necessarily about ever giving up, because my mission here with this IQ point was, is there a time somebody should say, I'm just not going to be an actor, I give up on life, or not life, but I'll become a,
At what point do you need to pivot?
yeah. And I think the notion is, be prepared to pivot into a different reality or different dream, that you don't have to give up on being an actor, but maybe don't rely only on acting to pay the bills. Do it more on the side, or maybe try to go into theater. Ross on Friends, I heard that he was prepared to give up on acting and went to stage quite a bit, until he got the call because he wasn't getting TV roles. And from my understanding, they basically built Friends around him, that they had saw him perform. And they're like, we need a show with him as like a main character. And again, he is beginning to pivot, but again, he got called in at like the last minute. And
it's funny because the irony of it all is that Ross is like the least favorite character amongst a lot of people.
But from my understanding, it was kind of his not morbid, but mopey attitude of, oh, I'm Ross, that they're like, we need to write about this guy.
Hi,
I'm Ross.
This reminds me of the story that I heard about Katy Perry. Because Katy Perry, before she became big, she was still trying to find her music sound. And she actually went through several different genres until she found the one that suited her and got her popular.
Oh.
Like, she actually started off as like Christian rock.
Really?
Like, at the very beginning, she was Christian rock. And then she pivoted. It didn't work out. So then she pivoted to something else. And then she pivoted again. And then she found her pop sound.
And she's still doing what she loves. It's just changing or adapting the dreams to be something that works and still be satisfying, right?
I feel like that's what happened with me, too. Was I had big dreams of like opening up a restaurant and being like a head chef. Like, basically the guy in The Bear, if you actually watch that. That's what I wanted to be, but then...
I thought you were going to say The Menu.
Oh, no. And then collect a bunch of people that have wronged me and slay them.
No, that's still the dream, Ryan. I'm
actually still working on that plan, but more on that later. But yeah, I was cooking for a long time, but then I kind of evolved. My position kept evolving into something else, and now I'm in a position that I really love that honestly doesn't even really cook a lot anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm still in the industry and I still do it. I never would have thought that I would have enjoyed this.
Right? Yeah.
But I found it.
Teaching, if you had asked me in elementary school, middle school, high school, like, do you want to be a teacher? I'd be like, fuck no. But somehow, like, I'm doing what I love. I have time to do hobbies I love or other ventures that I love. I'm able to continue my own education and continue my own writing and my other dreams, and it like builds on that. Like, it's the same sort of creativity that I'm learning and growing. Yeah,
and it gives you time to podcast.
Exactly. And I think there's a lot of skills from teaching that I pull into podcasting, like nothing at all. No, like just critical thinking and a lot of the stuff with how do we set this up, how do we handle this. I feel like it does kind of, it's satisfying to me that it works out in the same way or makes me feel creative in the same way.
Nice. Yeah. Well said.
So that's my IQ point. Just give up on your dreams.
Yep. And you will find your way.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Leonard and Penny start going over her bills, and he sees a charge for acting classes, which, of course, she can't give up, which is a great setup for later on. And then he sees the $1,800 charge to the Los Angeles County Superior Court. Turns out that her ex, Kurt, took a whiz on a cop car. And Leonard makes a gesture to Kurt's height, which will come back later. And he did this because he was drunk, which we should hope so. But segueing into our next IQ point.
I actually had one before this, too.
Oh, would you like to go first?
Sure. Because we just talked about the acting classes, right?
Yeah.
And she goes, I can't give up on those because I'm a professional. And so this is kind of a shorter IQ point, but he goes, have you gotten paid for acting? And she goes, that's not the definition of professional. And he goes, I think that is the definition of professional. And I've looked into this, and I hate the word professional. I've known before, I have been known to say that when I think of professional, I think of either prostitution or hitmen. And other than that, and maybe it's because I was online dating for so long, and everybody loved to put in their profiles, I'm a professional. They don't say professional what, but I'm like, okay, when you say I'm a professional, you're either a prostitute or you're a hitman. Like either way,
Wait, so they just in their profile they just wrote "I'm a professional."
so many times that was just like it was like a key word that they're like,
I'm a professional.
I'm
Period.
a professional. I'm very yeah. And the argument that I got back when I criticized that, people saying that professional just means that you get paid for doing what you do. But Merriam-Webster dictionary and other dictionaries I was looking at say the first definition in Merriam-Webster is professional means of or relating to a profession, uh, conscientious, business-like manner. So I would say that first definition overlaps the second definition, which is participating for gain or livelihood. The first definition isn't about money. It is relating to one's interest in what they do, trying to succeed. It is not about financial gain. The second definition is. And so, again, I would say you could be a professional, and even if you're not getting paid for it, you can still be a professional. But that's my argument, and I'm just kind of, I've seen it
I guess
used.
I've never considered that as the definition of professional anyways, like just being paid for it.
Being paid for
because
it.
I think of professional as more of a character trait.
Right? Yeah. That we typically, that first definition is the way you respond to it, that character trait that you handle it with, the manner of respect and conscientious business like, as opposed to doing it for money. You can do anything for money, but that doesn't mean you treat it with respect.
Yeah.
You can kill people or prostitute for money, but that doesn't mean you're professional.
Very true.
Anyways, so that was my thing. Small IQ point, but I'm kind of, I think I disagree with Leonard here. I think I agree with Penny that she's a professional actor.
Yeah, I agree. She takes it serious.
Exactly. So, okay, your turn for an IQ point.
So I wanted to research what is the penalty in California for public urination.
Ooh.
I was curious about this because I thought to myself, wouldn't he be a sex offender? Because I saw this in a movie.
Well,
so I got very curious. So, it must be true. I found this on sevenslegal.com and shouselaw.com. In California, public urination is classified as disorderly conduct or a public nuisance. However, you could be charged either an infraction or a misdemeanor depending who catches you, state or local police. Mm-hmm. And that will determine how they want to punish you as well. Infractions would result in just a fine, whereas a misdemeanor would be fines, probation, community service, and or jail time. And the different violations are similar but slightly different. For a city ordinance violation of public urination, a misdemeanor would be 6 months in jail and or $1,000 fine, which seems really steep for just peeing in public. 6 months of jail time. That's pretty wild.
I wonder how they what's the word? How that's logical, how they are able to explain that. That seems over the top.
Yeah. An infraction would just be a fine, somewhere between $100 and $500. Now, if they classify this as a public nuisance, it would be 6 months of jail and or $500 fine. So very similar to the previous one. Now, if this urination happened on a public transport, it's different. It would be 3 months of jail and or $500 or $400 fine.
Public transport, we're talking about like an airplane or a train?
Train, bus. Yeah, cab, something. Just, yeah.
Your mom's
I'm guessing
car.
More buses. Yeah. And you'd think that it would be a harsher punishment just because it's a more confined space, but it seems less than the other ones. However, if the prosecutor wanted to take it a step further, they could charge with indecent exposure.
See, that's where the sexual misconduct comes into place, is if they want to charge it.
Yep. This would get you probation, 6 months of jail, $1,000 fine, and you would need to register as a sex offender. And notice I did not say and or. You're getting all of these.
All of them.
So if they really wanted to hit you, indecent exposure. So in this situation, Kurt seems like he got off easy. He just got a fine.
Especially since it was on the
cop car.
Like I know somebody who's had to pay the fine because she was peeing in public. But it was like there were no.
That's a story right there. She got caught.
Yeah, there were no bathrooms around, and she's like downtown. She's been drinking all night, and no place will let her use the bathrooms. And she's like, it's gonna come out one way or another. So she found like an empty parking lot, kind of a dark corner, and went. But the cops saw her, and it's like,
did you see like the lights flash and everything like that? Or
I can't remember the whole story, and I don't think she wanted to talk about it too much.
Or did the cop pop out? What you doing?
Surprise! What you doing?
Here's your ticket. Have a good night.
You already had this written out.
It's a popular corner.
It's a popular corner. Now, if you could leave, somebody's coming. So, yeah, but I think she just had to pay a fine. She might have had to do some volunteer work, too, but I can't remember. It's been a long time.
Yeah. Well, Kurt got off easy. He could have gotten some jail time. He could have had to register as a sex offender.
See, at least my friend was in a dark corner. He was out for the police to see.
Well, Penny ended up paying for his fines, and he also had a bunch of outstanding tickets and a bench warrant against him, which explains why it added up to $1,800.
I'm surprised he didn't have to serve any jail time if he had a bunch of tickets and a bench warrant.
And
yeah,
that's crazy.
That's weird, but yeah,
it's a TV show. I guess we'll let it go. But in the end, reaching out to Kurt would solve all of our problems. But apparently, Penny's too proud, which I don't really understand because it's money that that is owed to her, and she did him the favor. So I don't understand why she's avoiding Kurt.
Maybe she just, she didn't say it, but maybe she's still mad at him, emotional about the breakup, and just doesn't want to see or talk to him.
I would have just left him in jail then.
Right? Yeah.
Find another friend. You have family in the area, right?
Oh, I took it was that this happened when she was dating him.
Oh. I don't know, maybe, but he saw it seemed like it was a recent credit card or a recent bill.
You're right.
So I feel like he got drunk, got arrested, had to pay the fine, and then she had to bail him out or something like that. And maybe he just memorized her number and just called her and said, "Hey, I need help."
There's a lot of questions.
That's kind of how I took it as.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Well, she considers finding a new place. But this convinces Leonard to act. She should get a roommate, and he knows someone, wink, wink. But if they lived together, Penny wouldn't be able to keep her hands off him. Acting lessons paid off. That was great.
I like that line. It made me laugh.
Yeah. And now we're back at the apartment, and the rest of the guys are playing a game and on a quest through the Valley of Fire. They're playing Talisman again. Leonard suggests that they go on a real quest, and I love that Sheldon's like, "But I just made cocoa."
I like that too.
And then he asks them if they remember Kurt, and they all make the exact same gesture of his height.
I have to say too, I want to say before we move on from Talisman, I know because I sent you a text after I had watched it, but they were. I really like Talisman, and I've been playing it more lately. But what we notice here is that one of the characters has been turned into a toad. And that toad is actually in the middle of the game board. In the middle of the game board is where the Crown of Command, the crown in the desert, the burning desert, whatever, is located. So that frog is at the end of the game, about to win. There's no fucking way. In fact, I sent a picture of this to my other friends, and one of them replied, "That's impossible!" Because frogs, like, they've lost all their defense. They have like one hit. They have no way to attack. They've lost all their equipment. And to get to this crown, like, you have to fight like armies of werewolves and vampires. You have to play chess with death himself. You have to break down doors of magic to fight with. And this little toad, it's no way he could have done it. And I don't know what would have happened for the toad to get there. But as far as I know, that probably wasn't as much of a error, but probably a little tongue-in-cheek joke about the game, because
so you think that they did that intentionally
I
to
think
see if
so.
someone found out? Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like, that's never gonna happen. So that
the
was
power of Coco.
The power of Coco.
Okay, that makes you shot me that text and I was like, I've never played this game. I have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't know what it means. Usually, like, you're gambling in town and an old witch will turn you into a toad, and then everybody like storms over because they steal all your equipment really quickly, and you have to hop away because if they attack you, you just like immediately die. And if you die, you start the game over as a new character and lose everything. So, yeah, it's not a good thing. It's pretty bad. Nope.
Anything else on Talisman?
That's Talisman. That's nice. My Talisman spiel.
Okay. Makes a lot more sense now. Well, Leonard wants to get the money back for Penny. And nope, the guys are not interested. Leonard tries to level it with the guys. He tries to like speak their language, because when Frodo left the Shire to take the One Ring to Mordor, didn't Samwise, Pippin, and Merry go with them? And I laughed out loud at this. They're like, yeah, but they had a terrible time.
A terrible time.
Yeah, that's actually really true.
It's very bad.
Well, then Leonard gets whiny, and the guys finally agree to go along. So now we are outside Kurt's apartment. Leonard asks if everyone is clear on the plan, and Howard loved this snark. He says, yep, Cuther probably's gonna wet himself. I'm gonna throw up. Sheldon's gonna run away, and you're gonna die. Shall we synchronize our watches?
And right here, we get a point of me being like, Howard, if I was one of them, I'd be the one who would throw up.
Yep.
I wouldn't run away, but I wouldn't be much of a help. I wouldn't pee myself, but there'd be some projectile vomiting.
Yeah. We'll do it on Kurt then.
Yeah,
distract
exactly.
him.
It's like
distract him and run away.
I'm like a Dilophosaurus from Jurassic Park, the one that spits.
Well, Leonard's like, guys, there are 4 of us and 1 of him. But Sheldon, being the realist, says, which means his triumph will be even larger. The minstrels will write songs about him. And then Kurt opens the door, and he remembers Lenny. But he doesn't remember anybody else, which very offends Sheldon.
Why doesn't he remember me?
Leonard asks Kurt to do the honorable thing and pay Penny back. And then he blows him off. And then it clicks in that, oh, he didn't remember me because the last time we saw each other, I was in a Halloween costume, which is a great callback to the Halloween episode.
It was. I forgot that was Kurt, but yeah, it was. And that was I was in a Halloween costume.
Yep. And then the rest of the guys leave, but then Leonard stays. He knocks on the door, and then he demands the money back. He won't leave without the money. So then Kurt writes an IOU on his forehead. And then more great Howard snark. Maybe we should have your head notarized. Well, now we're back at the apartment.
I like Raj ending that. If anybody cares, I still have to pee.
Ooh, which will come back later. Back at the apartment, Penny arrives to pay back Sheldon, and Leonard is wearing a hat to cover his forehead. Penny tells Sheldon the money really helped a lot, and he thinks it's sarcasm. And I just love Penny's reaction. She has what's her name? Haley Kuoko?
Is that her name?
That the actress.
Yeah,
She has
yeah.
such great facial expressions, like
No,
throughout this entire
no.
series. It's like, no.
That was great. It was very a heartfelt no at work.
Yeah.
No.
Well, Leonard asks how she got the money, and she tells him that she cut back on expenses and picked up more hours at the restaurant. But the big game changer was that Kurt brought back the money. And Leonard gets excited because he was hoping to get credit. But of course, Kurt is going to take the credit that he wanted to do what was right. So burn on Leonard.
Hmm.
And now Penny is getting dinner with Kurt tomorrow night.
That's a
And
real kicker.
Yeah, that's the real kick in the crotch. But she gets to wear her beret. And then Sheldon is proud of Leonard for not trying to take credit. He's the real hero. He was wrong. The minstrels will be writing songs about Leonard, not Kurt. And then he sings, "There once was a brave lad named Leonard, with a fee fiddle dee dee. He faced a fearsome giant, while Raj just wanted to pee." The end.
The end.
We did it.
That was a solid episode. Yeah.
That really was.
And like we were saying, that I really like the characterization of knowing, Sheldon does have some positive attributes, and this is a great one that he absolutely did not care when, in fact, if she forgot to pay him back, I can't see him being this one saying, "Oh, it's time to pay me." Like, he'd probably let it go and maybe just mention to somebody like, "Does she still owe me money?" Like, I could see that happening rather than getting mad or judging her.
Yeah, I feel like because like he almost doesn't care about money just in general because he Sheldon is like living his best life.
Mm-hmm.
He really is. Like he gets takeout all the time. He has a job that he loves. He goes to the comic book store. He has somebody to drive him everywhere. He has a comfortable living where it's like I don't really care about money. I'm doing what I love and I could do this for the rest of my life.
I have everything I need to be happy.
Yeah.
And then I'm also curious where it's going to go with, maybe it's just an off joke that she's getting dinner with Kurt, but maybe he's back in the picture. I don't know.
Guess we'll find out.
Find out.
Yeah. Yeah, overall thoughts of this episode, I really liked it. And I will say that the beret and the military clothing is actually became one of my favorite IQ points of this season. So it's a contender for top IQ points in
for the whole season. Wow.
Yeah, for this season. I already know, I think I already know which one my favorite is, though. I won't say anything. You're going to have to wait for the recap. Yeah. But I already know which one my absolute favorite is.
Oh, man, I'd have to look back at them. There's been a couple really good ones.
Yeah.
I like the one in this episode I did on giving up on your dreams. I felt like that struck a chord. It's just really interesting, and with Penny's character, I think it speaks like a lot. Like, yeah,
I feel like that was actually just really good advice for anyone because I kind of went through all that with my side projects, and I feel like that kind of opens up the door for a conversation between us on where we want to be.
Yeah, definitely,
and when we're gonna give up on each other.
I already have. I pivoted.
Wait, am I the pivot? Or are you pivoting away? Tell me the truth.
Goodbye.
And goodbye. All right, so let's tally up some points.
All right.
I'll do the IQ points and you'll take care of the Sheldon points.
Yeah, so we are at 57 of me being not like Sheldon and 55 me being like him.
And we have 6 total IQ points.
That's a good number.
Well, thanks everybody for listening. Please remember to leave us a review on Apple and you will have a chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card. Yeah. Simply by just writing us a review. You can write anything you want. Just give us 5 stars and write whatever you want. But it has to be a written one. I should have mentioned that earlier. Because if you just give us 5 stars, there's no way to document who put that in. So you actually have to write something. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Gingerly tap that like button. Follow us on Instagram at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com, and we will see you next time when we talk about Season 2, Episode 15, The Maternal Capacitance. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
This was Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required. Our intro and outro music is by Al Scroll, and our logo is by John Kim. Thanks for listening. With a fee-fee-fiddle-dee-dee.